The late afternoon sun cast a golden glow across the back patio, where Emily kneeled beside 7-year-old Noah, both of them dusted with flour as they arranged cookie dough on a baking sheet. Their laughter carried across the manicured lawn of the suburban estate that had been their sanctuary for nearly 2 years. Daniel Stone, CEO of a thriving tech startup, glanced up from his book to watch them. The sight still amazed him sometimes, how seamlessly they had become part of his life, bringing warmth to the house that had once felt too large, too empty. Noah caught his eye and waved enthusiastically, his smile revealing a newly missing front tooth. "Daniel, we're making chocolate chip and peanut butter, your favorites," the boy called out. Emily tucked a strand of caramel-colored hair behind her ear, looking over at Daniel with that smile that still made his heart skip. These quiet weekend moments had become his favorite part of life, far more meaningful than any business success. The doorbell's chime cut through their domestic bliss. Daniel reached for his phone, tapping the security app. The camera feed showed a disheveled man standing at their gate, unshaven, with long, unkempt dark hair and clothes that hung loosely on his frame. His eyes were bloodshot, with dark circles beneath them, suggesting many sleepless nights. "Can I help you?" Daniel asked through the intercom, his tone measured but firm. The man stared directly into the camera, his gaze unsettlingly intense. "My name is Kyle Matthews. I need to speak to Emily Winters." Daniel's thumb hovered over the button to dismiss the stranger when the man spoke again, his voice cracking with emotion. "I'm Noah's father, his real father. I want my son back." The words hit like a physical blow. Behind Daniel, a crash sounded as Emily dropped the baking tray, sending cookies scattering across the flagstone patio. Noah looked up, confused by the sudden tension. "Mom? What's wrong?" he asked, his small voice trembling slightly. Emily stood, frozen, her face drained of color as if she'd seen a ghost. Her hands shook violently as she braced herself against the patio table. "It can't be," she whispered. "It's not possible." Daniel moved toward her, protectively placing himself between Emily and the security screen. "Who is this man, Emily?" She couldn't answer, her eyes wide with terror as she stared at the screen. Daniel had never seen such raw fear in her expression, not even when she'd first come to him 2 years ago, desperate and alone with a 5-year-old boy in tow, seeking shelter and a fresh start. "Noah, honey," Daniel said, keeping his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Can you go upstairs and pick a movie for us to watch later? The grown-ups need to talk for a minute." The boy hesitated, sensing the tension but unable to understand its source. Finally, he nodded and reluctantly headed inside. Once Noah was out of earshot, Daniel turned back to Emily, who had collapsed into a patio chair, her breathing rapid and shallow. "Emily, talk to me. Who is this man?" he asked quietly. "A ghost," she whispered. "He should be dead. He promised he would kill us both if I ever left. I ran because I had no choice." On the security screen, Kyle continued to stare directly into the camera, as if he could see through it to the family whose peace he had just shattered with 8 simple words, "I want my son back, he's mine." The bedroom was shrouded in darkness, save for a thin ribbon of moonlight filtering through the partially open curtains. Emily sat curled at the window seat, her silhouette outlined against the night sky. She hadn't moved for nearly an hour, her gaze fixed on the security gate where Kyle had stood earlier that day. Daniel leaned against the doorframe, watching her. The house security system had been double-checked, the alarm activated, but he knew the real damage couldn't be prevented by technology. Something precious and fragile. Their sense of safety had already been breached. "Noah's finally asleep," he said softly. "It took 3 bedtime stories and a promise that we'd finish those cookies tomorrow." Emily didn't respond. Her fingers twisted the hem of her nightshirt. A nervous habit Daniel had noticed disappeared months ago, now suddenly resurrected. He crossed the room and sat across from her. "Emily, we need to talk about what happened today." For several moments, silence hung between them, heavy with unspoken questions. "You told me Noah's father was out of the picture," Daniel finally said. "That there was nobody else, no family to complicate things." Emily drew a shaky breath. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I thought he was dead. I prayed he was. She looked up, her eyes glistening with tears. Kyle wasn't just abusive, Daniel. He was monstrous. The things he did, she paused, struggling with memories she'd spent years trying to bury. The last night he was high on something. He grabbed Noah, he was only 4 then, and held him over the balcony of our apartment. 13 floors up. He said if I ever tried to leave, he'd make sure I'd have nothing left to leave for. Daniel's fists clenched involuntarily. I waited until he passed out. Took Noah, the emergency cash I'd been hiding, and we disappeared. Changed our names, moved across 3 states. I never looked back because I couldn't risk it. I had to protect my son. Daniel moved beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Why didn't you tell me all this before? Emily's laugh was hollow. What would I have said? By the way, I'm not really Emily Winters, and my son's father might hunt us down one day. You were already taking an enormous risk hiring me as your executive assistant, then letting us into your life, your home. Her voice broke. I didn't want to taint what we had with that darkness. Daniel processed this information, his mind, racing with implications. If he can prove he's Noah's biological father, he is, Emily interrupted. There's no question about that. Then legally, he might have rights. We need to talk to a lawyer immediately. Emily turned to him, panic rising in her eyes. You don't understand. I don't have any formal custody arrangement. I just took Noah and ran. In the eyes of the law, I might be considered a kidnapper, Daniel finished grimly. The weight of the word settled between them. Outside, a security light flickered on as something, probably just a neighborhood cat, triggered the motion. Sensors, both of them flinched. What if he takes Noah away? Emily whispered, voicing her deepest fear. I can't lose my son, Daniel. I can't. Daniel pulled her closer, his mind already formulating plans, contingencies, ways to fight. Listen, to me, whatever happens, we'll face it together. I won't let anyone hurt either of you. Emily nodded against his shoulder, but her eyes remained fixed on the window, scanning the darkness beyond their home, a fortress that suddenly seemed far less secure than it had just 24 hours ago. He found us once, she murmured. He'll keep coming back. The morning sun streamed through the bay windows of Daniel's home office, casting long shadows across the polished hardwood floor. He sat at his desk, phone pressed to his ear, listening intently to his family attorney. Emily paced nervously, nearby, catching fragments of the one-sided conversation that confirmed her worst fears. Yes, I understand, Daniel said, his expression grim. Set up a meeting as soon as possible, today if they can manage it. He ended the call and sighed deeply, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. 3 days had passed since Kyle's appearance, days filled with tense discussions and sleepless nights. It's not good, is it? Emily asked, though she already knew the answer. Kyle's lawyer contacted ours this morning. He has a DNA test proving paternity, and he's filed for custody. Rights. Daniel's voice was steady, clinical, masking the turmoil beneath. Since there was never a formal termination of his parental rights, Emily sank into the leather chair across from him. He's going to take Noah. No, Daniel said firmly. This is just the beginning of a legal process. We have options. A soft knock at the door interrupted them. Noah stood there, clutching a sheet of paper. Mom, can I show you something? The boy entered cautiously, sensing the tension that had permeated the house for days. Of course, sweetheart, Emily forced a smile. Noah placed his drawing on the desk. It showed 3 stick figures standing outside a house that closely resembled Daniel's. The figures were labeled Mom, me, and Dad. The last figure unmistakably meant to be Daniel, complete with the glasses he wore while working. Daniel stared at the drawing, momentarily speechless. Until now, Noah had always called him Mr. Daniel, or sometimes just Daniel. The promotion to Dad on paper hit him with unexpected force. Do you like it? Noah asked, uncertainty in his voice. Daniel knelt to the boy's level. I love it, buddy. This is the best drawing I've ever seen. Noah beamed, relief washing over his features. Can we put it on the fridge? Absolutely, Emily said, her voice thick with emotion. As Noah scampered off to find magnets, Daniel remained crouched, his composure faltering. "He called me Dad," he whispered. Emily touched his shoulder gently. "You've been more of a father to him in 2 years than Kyle was in 4. The moment was interrupted by Daniel's phone ringing again. He answered, listening intently before his expression darkened. "I see. Yes, thank you for letting us know." He hung up and turned to Emily, his jaw tight. "Kyle's lawyer has arranged a supervised visitation for tomorrow at the Family Services Center. The judge granted it as a preliminary measure." Emily's hand flew to her mouth. "So soon? I'm not ready. Noah's not ready." "We don't have a choice," Daniel said grimly. "If we refuse, it weakens our position." Later that evening, after Noah was asleep, they sat on the patio where just days ago they had been baking cookies, a lifetime ago. "What if he hurts Noah?" Emily whispered. "What if he takes him and runs?" "There will be supervisors present the entire time. He won't get the chance." Emily shook her head, unconvinced. "You don't know him like I do. Kyle always finds a way to get what he wants." Daniel took her hands in his. "Listen to me. If Kyle wants to take Noah away from us, he'll have to go through me first. I'll use every resource, every connection, every dollar I have. We're not going to lose him." In the dim light, he could see tears streaming down Emily's face, not just from fear but from a realization. For 7 years, she had fought alone, running and hiding, always looking over her shoulder. Now, for the first time, she had someone willing to stand beside her. "I can't ask you to fight this battle," she said softly. "This isn't your responsibility." Daniel's response was immediate and unwavering. "Noah and you became my responsibility the moment you became part of my life. We're a family now, and families protect each other." As they sat there in the gathering, darkness, Emily realized that whatever came next, at least one thing had changed forever. She was no longer facing her nightmares alone. The Family Services Center was a sterile beige building with fluorescent lighting that hummed overhead, washing out everyone's complexion to a sickly pallor. Noah sat nervously between Emily and Daniel in the waiting area, his small legs swinging. "Without reaching the floor, do I have to talk to him?" the boy asked for the 3rd time, his voice small. Emily squeezed his hand. "Just for a little while, honey. I'll be right outside the whole time." "Will he be mad that I don't remember him?" Daniel interjected gently. "No one expects you to remember, buddy. You were very little then." A door opened, and a social worker emerged. "Noah, we're ready for you now." The boy's grip on Emily's hand tightened to the point of pain. Daniel knelt in front of him. "Remember what we talked about? You're the bravest kid I know. Just be honest, be yourself, and before you know it, we'll be getting ice cream." Noah nodded solemnly and followed the social worker, glancing back once, with wide, uncertain eyes before disappearing through the door. For the next hour, Emily and Daniel waited in excruciating silence, broken only by the ticking wall clock and occasional muffled voices from behind closed doors. "What do you think they're talking about?" Emily whispered. "Nothing that could hurt us," Daniel reassured her. "The truth is on our side." When Noah finally emerged, his expression was subdued but not distressed. Kyle followed, keeping a professional distance, but his eyes tracked the boy's every movement with an intensity that made Daniel instinctively step between them. As Noah reached Emily, Kyle approached, his movements casual, yet somehow threatening. "He's grown so much," he said, his voice softer than expected. "You've done a good job, Em." The familiar nickname made Emily flinch. Before she could respond, Kyle slipped a folded piece of paper into her hand. "Read it after I leave," he murmured, then nodded to the social workers and departed. In the car, Noah fell asleep almost immediately, emotionally exhausted. Only then did Emily unfold the paper. "What is it?" Daniel asked, noticing her sudden pallor. Emily's hand trembled as she passed him the note. In messy handwriting it read, $250,000 and you leave your rich boyfriend's house. I withdraw my custody claim. Otherwise I drag this through every court. Tell everyone how you kidnapped my son and make your life hell. You have 48 hours. Daniel's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "We're taking this to the police. This is extortion." "No," Emily said sharply. "If this becomes a criminal case, Noah will be pulled into depositions, psychological evaluations, maybe even testimony. his whole life exposed in court. Her voice broke. He's already been through enough. So we just pay him off? And you leave our home? Daniel's voice rose slightly before he caught himself, glancing at the sleeping child in the rearview mirror. I don't know, Emily whispered. But I know what a court battle would mean. Every detail of our lives examined. Noah would be interviewed by strangers, asked terrible questions about his early childhood, about us, about Kyle. The media would get hold of it, the CEO's girlfriend and her custody battle. It would be a feeding frenzy. Daniel pulled the car over, unable to drive with the fury coursing through him. Listen to me, he said, turning to face her. Paying him won't end this. Men like Kyle don't just take the money and disappear. He'll come back for more again and again. You don't know that. I know predators. I've dealt with enough of them in business. Daniel took her hand. We fight this. The right way, through the courts. I'll hire the best lawyers in the country. Tears streamed down Emily's face. I can't put Noah through that. I just can't. In the back seat, Noah stirred slightly but didn't wake. His small face was peaceful in sleep, unaware of the storm raging around him. Daniel looked from the boy to Emily, the two people who had transformed his life, his home, his heart. The choice before him was impossible. Fight and risk putting Noah through a traumatic legal battle, or surrender to a criminal's demands and potentially lose them both anyway. Give me tonight, he finally said. Let me think. Emily nodded, wiping away tears, her eyes returning to the rearview mirror, watching her son sleep, the one person she had sworn to protect at any cost. The night air was cool against Daniel's face as he stood on the balcony outside his bedroom, staring at the lights of the city below. It was past midnight, but sleep eluded him. Emily had finally drifted off, exhausted from crying, her breathing now even and deep behind him in the darkened room. The sound of small feet padding across carpet made him turn. Noah stood in the doorway to the balcony, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. Hey, buddy, Daniel said softly. Shouldn't you be asleep? Noah shrugged. I heard Mom crying earlier. Daniel's heart sank. Come here. He lifted the boy and set him on the wide stone balustrade, keeping a secure arm around him. Your mom's just dealing with some grown-up stuff. Nothing for you to worry about. Noah looked up at him, his eyes serious beyond his years. Is it because of that man, the one who says he's my real dad? Daniel hesitated, unsure how much to say. Partly, yes. I don't like him, Noah stated simply. He asked weird questions, like if I remember our old apartment or if Mom ever talks about him. The boy frowned. He kept calling me son and tried to hug me, but it felt weird. Did you tell the social worker how you felt? Noah nodded. I told her I want to stay with you and Mom. That's okay, right? Daniel swallowed the lump in his throat. That's more than okay, buddy. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, looking at the stars. Daniel? Noah's voice was hesitant. Can I ask you something? Anything. If that man is my real dad, does that mean you're not my dad anymore? The question hit Daniel like a physical blow. Family isn't just about who's related by blood, Noah. It's about who loves you, who takes care of you, who shows up every day. Noah seemed to consider this deeply. So, you can still be my dad too? If that's what you want, I'd be honored, Daniel replied, his voice rough with emotion. Good, Noah yawned, because I already told my friends at school that you're my dad. Daniel carried the sleepy boy back to his bedroom, tucking him in gently. As he turned to leave, Noah called out softly, Wait, I made something for you. From under his pillow, he pulled out a folded piece of paper. Daniel opened it to find a handwritten note in a child's careful printing. Dear Daniel, I know you're not my real dad by blood, but you taught me to tie my shoes and ride a bike. You helped me with homework and make Mom laugh. That makes you my real dad in my heart. Love, Noah. Daniel stood frozen, reading the words over and over until they blurred through his tears. By the time he returned to his own bedroom, a decision had crystallized in his mind. Emily was still asleep, her face finally peaceful. He didn't wake her. Instead, he went to his office and made a phone call, despite the late hour. "This is Daniel Stone," he said when his lawyer answered. "I want to file for legal adoption of Noah Winters, and I want to countersue Kyle Matthews for extortion, past child abandonment, and documented domestic abuse. No settlements, no compromises." His voice hardened. "We're going to fight, and we're going to win." In Noah's room, the boy slept soundly, unaware that his simple note had just changed everything. The courtroom was smaller than Daniel had expected, the wood paneling giving it an almost claustrophobic feel as they waited for the preliminary hearing to begin. Emily sat beside him, pale but composed, her hand gripping his beneath the table. Their lawyer, Catherine Dawson, one of the most formidable family attorneys in the state, arranged documents methodically before them. Across the aisle, Kyle slouched in his chair, whispering occasionally to his own attorney, a nervous-looking man whose suit appeared a size too large. Kyle caught Emily watching him and smiled, the same smile that had once charmed her before she learned what lurked beneath it. "All rise," the bailiff called as Judge Maria Hernandez entered. She was a severe-looking woman with silver-streaked hair and reading glasses perched on the end of her nose. The proceedings began with Kyle's attorney presenting his case, a biological father, reformed from past mistakes, seeking to reunite with the son who was unlawfully taken from him. He dramatically presented the DNA test results, confirming Kyle's paternity. "Furthermore, Your Honor," the attorney continued, "Ms. Winters deprived my client of his parental rights by disappearing with the child without any legal custody arrangement. This constitutes parental kidnapping under state law." Emily's grip on Daniel's hand tightened painfully. When it was their turn, Catherine rose confidently. "Your Honor, before addressing Mr. Matthews's claims, I'd like to present evidence of why Ms. Winters felt compelled to leave with her child." She methodically introduced hospital records documenting Emily's injuries from domestic violence incidents, police reports that had been filed but later dropped when Emily was too frightened to testify, and testimonies from neighbors who had witnessed Kyle's abuse. The courtroom grew uncomfortably silent as the evidence mounted. Kyle's smirk had faded, replaced by a tight-lipped scowl. "Additionally," Catherine continued, "we have evidence of recent extortion." She played an audio recording. Daniel had convinced Emily to wear a recording device when they arranged a meeting with Kyle to discuss his terms. His voice filled the courtroom, clear and damning. "I don't give a shit about the kid, but I know you do, and I know your boyfriend's loaded. Pay me, or I'll make sure neither of you ever sees Noah again." Kyle half rose from his seat, face contorted with rage, before his attorney pulled him back down. "And finally," Catherine said, "we have evidence from the supervised visitation." She played video from the center's security cameras, showing Kyle leaning close to Noah when the social worker momentarily stepped away, whispering, "Once this is over, I'm selling you to the highest bidder. Your mom should have thought about that before she ran away." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Kyle's attorney scrambled to his feet, objecting vehemently, but the damage was done. Judge Hernandez's expression had turned to stone. After a brief recess, she returned with her ruling. "The court finds that Mr. Matthews has demonstrated a pattern of behavior that poses a significant threat to the child's well-being. His custody petition is denied." She turned her gaze directly to Kyle. "Furthermore, based on the evidence presented, this court is referring this case to the district attorney for criminal charges of extortion, threats against a minor, and violation of the restraining order that was apparently in place before Ms. Winters left." Two court officers moved toward Kyle, who stood in shocked disbelief. "Wait," he sputtered. "This isn't, you can't." "Additionally," the judge continued over his protests, "the court grants the petition filed by Mr. Daniel Stone to legally adopt Noah Winters, given the demonstrated 2-year period of acting in loco parentis, the documented support he has provided, and most significantly, she held up Noah's handwritten note, which had been entered into evidence, the express wish of the child himself." Emily collapsed against Daniel in relief as Kyle was led away in handcuffs, shouting threats until the courtroom doors closed behind him. Outside on the courthouse steps, reporters clamored for statements. but Daniel ushered Emily quickly to their waiting car. Once inside, she finally broke down, sobs of relief racking her body. "It's over," Daniel whispered, holding her close. "We didn't run, we stood our ground and we won." Through her tears, Emily managed a smile. "We're really a family now. Legally." Daniel nodded, his own emotions threatening to overwhelm him. "Noah, stone. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it?" As their car pulled away from the courthouse, the weight of 7 years of fear began to lift from Emily's shoulders. Not all at once, but gradually, like ice thawing in the spring sun. The kitchen was filled with the rich aroma of tomato sauce and melting cheese as Daniel helped Noah spread toppings across the homemade pizza dough. Emily leaned against the counter, watching them with a soft smile that reached her eyes for the first time in weeks. It had been 3 days since the court hearing, 3 days of adjustment to their new reality, one without fear shadowing every moment. The media interest had already begun to wane. Apparently, a CEO adopting his girlfriend's son wasn't scandalous enough to hold the public's attention for long, especially when compared to the sensational arrest of Kyle Matthews, who now faced multiple criminal charges. "Dad, can I put extra pepperoni on my half?" Noah asked, the word dad falling from his lips naturally now, no longer hesitant or questioning. "Go for it, buddy," Daniel replied, still feeling a surge of emotion each time Noah called him that. Emily moved to join them, at the kitchen island, sliding her arms around Daniel's waist from behind. "Not too much cheese, you two. Remember what happened last time?" "That was totally not my fault," Daniel protested with mock seriousness. "The cheese rebellion of last month was clearly the oven's doing." Noah giggled, the sound pure and unburdened. "The cheese was all over the bottom. It looked like lava." As Daniel slid the pizza into the oven, Noah grew suddenly thoughtful, his small brow furrowing. "So," he said carefully, "does this mean I have a new last name now?" Daniel and Emily exchanged glances. They had discussed this but wanted Noah to feel included in the decision. "If you want," Daniel replied, crouching to the boy's level. "The judge approved the adoption, so legally you could be Noah Stone. But it's okay if you want to keep your current name too." Noah seemed to weigh this momentous decision with all the seriousness a 7-year-old could muster. "Would it hurt Mom's feelings if I changed my name?" Emily knelt beside them, forming a small circle on the kitchen floor. "No, sweetheart, not at all. What matters is what feels right to you." "Then, I want to be Noah Stone," he declared firmly, "because then everyone will know we're a real family." "We were already a real family," Daniel said gently. "The papers just make it official for everyone else." Noah shook his head with the certainty of childhood. "No, we were almost a family. Before, now we're a real one." He looked between them, "Right?" Emily brushed her hand through his hair, tears welling in her eyes despite her smile. "Absolutely right." Later, after Noah was asleep, Emily and Daniel sat on the patio, the same spot where their world had been upended weeks ago by Kyle's appearance. Now, with a gentle evening breeze rustling the trees and stars appearing one by one overhead, it felt like they were reclaiming the space, healing it with their presence. "I never thought I'd have this again," Emily said softly. "After I left Kyle, I convinced myself that Noah and I would always be running, always looking over our shoulders." She looked at Daniel, the gratitude in her eyes immeasurable. "I never imagined someone would choose to stand with us, to fight for us." Daniel took her hand, tracing his thumb across her palm. "I didn't just choose to stand with you. I chose to be your family." He hesitated, then added, "If that's what you want." "To?" Emily leaned against him, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "I spent years thinking family was something to fear, something that could trap you." She smiled. "But I was wrong. Real family is where you're safest, where you can finally stop running." Above them, the stars continued their silent vigil over the home where a family, not bound by blood but by choice, had finally found their peace. Golden afternoon sunlight filtered through the oak tree as Emily placed a new photograph on the bookshelf. Daniel and Noah by the lake, their matching smiles radiant beside colorful paper boats they had folded together. Beneath the frame, her handwritten note read, "We are not bound by blood but by choice. We choose love, we choose to stay, and that is enough. Through the French doors, she watched Daniel kneeling beside Noah in the backyard, patiently demonstrating how to tie shoelaces. The boy's face was pure concentration, small fingers carefully mimicking each movement. When Noah finally succeeded, he looked up with undisguised pride. "Dad, look, I did it!" Daniel's face lit up with that special smile reserved only for Noah. "Perfect! High five, champ!" Noah ran to show Emily his accomplishment. "Mom, I tied them all by myself." She inspected the slightly lopsided but successful knots. "No more Velcro shoes for you, mister." As Daniel joined them, Emily leaned against his shoulder. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is real." He kissed her temple. "It's real. The papers are filed. Kyle's restraining order is permanent. He's looking at 5 years minimum." Noah returned with colored paper and markers. "Can we make more boats for the pond?" They settled at the table, folding simple origami vessels, while Noah chatted about school. By the water's edge, as they watched their paper fleet drift, Noah asked thoughtfully, "Mom, Jaden said families have to be the same blood. That's not true, is it?" Emily knelt beside him. "No, sweetheart, in this busy world, people who choose to love each other every day, that's what makes a real family." Daniel squeezed her hand. "It's not about who came first, but who chooses to stay no matter what." From above, the scene was perfect. A boy chasing paper boats around the pond, a woman and man walking hand in hand behind him, their steps unhurried, faces peaceful. One bright blue boat sailed toward the center, carrying the invisible weight of 3 hearts finding their way home. As evening approached, they returned to the house silhouetted against the sunset, no longer strangers thrown together by circumstance, but a family forged by choice, courage, and the quiet miracle of showing up for each other day after day. Thank you for watching this story about what truly makes a family. If it touched your heart, please hit that subscribe button and join our community. We bring you meaningful stories like this every week. Don't forget to share with someone who needs to hear this message today. Until next time.